Well, thanks. I appreciate it today. I kind of regret not having music. I didn't realize I was going to be going last, so I feel like it would have been nice to kind of bolster the energy a bit. But in terms of kind of what to expect for the next 21 minutes and 50 seconds, my hope for today is really to talk about some of the programs that we've put in place. I feel like the presenters before me were far more articulate and energetic in terms of kind of rationalizing why culture is so important. So I'm not going to be spending a ton of time on that. So today, really, if I will consider myself successful if you walk away from today and say, hey, that's one program that we can take back and integrate back to our company. We are in iteration of 2.0 or 3.0 on each one of the programs I'll be talking about today. So we've faltered, we've fallen on our face, we've looked very silly on a few of these. So hopefully what I'm presenting is a little bit more of an advanced option. My hope is that with any luck, it inspires some ideas. And so the big thing for me and kind of what's core to, I think, what has made GadellNet's culture successful is we've defined it, which a lot of people talked about today, but then we operationalized it. So my background's in ops. I'm a black belt Six Sigma. I love talking about the floofy part of HR, but I also like saying is how do I quantify this, how do I measure it? So a lot of today is really kind of touching a bit on that. So I actually showed the slides to my wife 2 days ago. She's director of branding for Delta Faucet Company, and she was furious at how my slides look. So again, this is pragmatic. There's no cool slides, but this is just a lot of cool ideas to kind of help improve the business that you're looking at. So as you mentioned, I actually did run up Mount Si. So that's just a picture that I'm going to use today. So this is actually from yesterday, and it's a bit gloomy, and it's a terrible picture because it was actually raining the entire way up. On the way back down, skies cleared, sunshine. So I didn't get to see a great view from the top, which is probably another metaphor in and of itself. But really, what I wanted to do is kind of this is our articulation of kind of the way I see the employee journey. And I use that word very clearly, this idea of kind of separating this idea of an employee job and making it an employee journey. Because for us, I think the mindset of I take a marketing manager job, and then I take the senior marketing manager job, and then I take the director of marketing job, and then I become the VP of marketing, I feel like that's gone away. And so I use kind of this analogy. So you've got, this is an uphill, for better or for worse, and you've got stairs on the side, and then you've got kind of this uphill ramp. And I'd say the GadellNet culture, and I think the culture that people are the most successful in, is that way on the right. Is that it's not a stair step. Well, I'm going to take a job, I'm going to be in that job for the next 2.5 years, and I'm going to move up. I think growth and this kind of idea of grow or die is an evolution. And for us, I think that is an important part of the way we see things, is jobs. You can be in the same job for the next 10 years in our organization, but you are growing every single day. And so a lot of what today's conversation is kind of how do we function in that growth and get rid of kind of that stair step model and just kind of have this pervasive feeling of growth. I'm a tech guy, so think about it as software as a service. Think about it as TINYpulse. If you bought Windows 95, you got a bunch of disks, you loaded in, and then you waited 6 years to upgrade your software. That's not the way life is now. And that's not the way the employees, I believe, can grow best. There's iterations. I mean, TINYpulse has been updated, what, 65 times in the last year? Employees want to be updated 65 times. And that kind of SaaS model is kind of the way that people think. So I'm talking a little bit about us. It's my family. I'm a father of 2 and a fetus, so my wife is pregnant, which I should not up there. I own GadellNet, and I also own a software company. We just closed our Series A for a few $1 million, and it's kind of getting off the ground, I hope. But my full-time job is running GadellNet. I also do ultramarathon runs. I also have done a bunch of Ironman triathlons, and I've kind of all done it while trying to get a company. I joined as the 3rd employee, and we're up to about 95 or so. So again, not a huge organization, but certainly growing. Why a lot of this is important to me is I'm in the IT space where unemployment is 0. My worst employees can get a job in 24 hours. That is how fast IT is going. So, and then more than that, somebody with commensurate experience 2 years ago is making about $15,000 more now. So the onus is on us to say, how do I grow my people so well that they never want to leave? And I don't need to talk about ROI. Other people have done that, but that's really where this comes from. So again, founded in 2003, I joined in 2010, and it kind of helped grow that. Few awards that kind of helps quantify the value, but nothing that you guys haven't seen before. Just some statistics, just so you know that I'm kind of talking from a place of somewhat success in terms of results. Again, we've had about 92% annual retention, which I thought was awesome until the first speaker today had darn near 100%, and I'm humiliated. And then I think the number that I like the most is no longer that one, is the one on the left. That 75 of our employees come from referrals. And we do offer a $1,000 referral bonus, which is pretty par for the course in some capacity, but I would say that's not why people refer us. People get prideful of the culture that they're a part of. Other statistics, we have the most recent kind of how happy are you at work was about 8.9. Our new employee 12-week onboarding average score is about 9.3, 9.4. So big on using TINYpulse to help quantify, are these programs working? 3 quick values for who we are, and again, the last one is the one we're really going to be touching on today. So 100% responsibility, 0% excuses, make an impact, and then grow or die. That chart is up anywhere you turn in our organization. You'll see that chart kind of pervading all of those things. And again, values are important, but it's how you articulate and operationalize those values, which I think is a bit more important. Talking a little bit on recruitment, so what we've done to kind of enhance our recruiting methodology. Again, that 92% is voluntary and involuntary turnover. So I think a lot of people are proud of their voluntary turnover, but for us, is if we're letting people go, we're hiring poor people. So I think the onus is on us for that. We have 4 interviews and 2 assessments that takes place. And so a few key things that I want to touch on here is A, the $1,000 bonus. Frankly speaking, that's probably going to go up to $2,000 or $3,000 this year. You can't pay enough for a good employee. And more than that, you can't pay enough for somebody who's already vested in terms of kind of how you do things. Pre-vetted employees. One of the TINYpulse questions recently is, would you recommend somebody? And about 15 to 20 of them were, I would never bring a friend into this organization because they're not smart enough or because they don't get our values. And so that self-selection is amazing in terms of kind of bringing some of those things. So we do a personality assessment. Show of hands, who does personality assessments as part of their hiring process? Huge part of our culture, and I can't articulate that. We use predictive index. I'm not a salesperson for any of those, but we adore it. Big part of kind of understanding the unique part of their people. We do it when we understand teams. So anytime we're hiring, I do a full roll-up of here's all the personalities in that team and understanding kind of where we need certain skill sets. Do I need a more analytical person? Do I need a more outgoing person? Do I need somebody to take notes in meetings, and so thus they have to have this personality characteristic? How do I build a power team? Personality traits do that. And if you walk in our office, our personality profiles are posted on every cubicle because I want everyone to know this is how I operate. So for me, interrupt me all day long. I love it. But there are other people, if I come behind them and I interrupt them, 45 minutes to get back to work again. And we have that literally on their wall. So we try to kind of make this idea of you can be an individual in the context of the grander part of GadellNet. We also do a cognitive assessment. Basically what we do, it's a 12-minute test. It's like an SAT. You have 50 questions to answer. It's huge. And you get this countdown. Nobody ever finishes the 50 questions, but the idea is the fact of how do you respond and how good of decisions are you making under pressure. So big part of that assessment. Interview number 1 is behavioral and value alignment. So that person so far has taken a behavioral screen as part of our application process, 2 tests and a behavioral interview, and I haven't asked them a single question of how do you turn on a computer. Next one's a technical one. Then we do an on-site simulation where we actually have them act out their role. I cannot articulate enough in terms of how big of an impact an on-site simulation has been in our interview process. Seeing them participate in that process. So if they're a salesperson, they're given a case study on how to sell. If they're an engineer, they're given a problem to solve and an angry client screaming at them to solve that with them. If they are a consultant, they're going to solve an issue. So we want to see that happen. And then it's a behavioral panel, and then we do a lunch. If it's an executive, it's a dinner. And I bring my wife, or one of the executives brings their spouse, and they take them and their spouse out to dinner. All this is part of our hiring process. It's expensive, it's slow, it's obnoxious, and I have clients that are screaming at me about why I haven't hired people yet, and it's because we align ourselves with that. In 18 months, last hires in 18 months, I've had to terminate 0 people. And of those 18 months, 0 people have left. And we've really hired that. So it's a testament of that. Plus, people are super prideful. When people in their company know you're spending that much time, they're part of this elite. Blue Buddy. Blue Buddy, so blue is our logo's not up there, but our logo is blue. So we have this idea of kind of a blue culture. It's a cultural ambassador program. It's led by 4 people. Our HR manager kind of articulates and gets that group going, picks the 4 people, and then lets them run the program. They get a mentor. So this, I think, contributes to our 9.3 or 9.4 or whatever onboarding score. They are in charge of making sure they understand both the technical and physical nuances of GadellNet, but also little things like, here's the things that make Nick laugh. Here are the things not to avoid with Nick. The little cultural nuances that are important with that. So again, they're signed to Blue Buddy for 1 year. They generally meet. They're given an unlimited expense account to take their family out to dinner. They take them out to coffees. they get any opportunity with which to engage with that new employee to kind of help build that rapport, but then also to talk about some of those nuances. And they just always have somebody they can ask that silly question to. And it's always outside the core department. We used to have it within the department, just thinking, well, you understand all the technology and all the process that you use. But we found that we got siloed within our departments, and this actually kind of helped break some of those through. We also do, again, we also use Slido to introduce new employees. We do a quarterly state of the company as part of our process. And we do a 2 truths and a lie, which is nothing creative, but we use Slido to introduce that employee. People really look forward to that part of it because it makes them feel special for a little bit. And then, as per usual, I think the first individual mentioned it, we send an employee assessment before they get started. What's your favorite restaurant? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite booze? What's your favorite, do you do coffee or tea? What's your favorite book? What's your favorite all these other things? And we prepare kind of a customized gift basket so that when they come in, they've got it all there, and they've got multiple t-shirts, multiple polos, multiple pants, multiple hats that have our branding on it. So it's a customized experience to make sure that they come in and they really love GadellNet from day one. Training. We actually hired a full-time, we're a company of darn near 100 people, but we have a full-time HR manager and we have a full-time training and development manager. That is an expensive thing. In my little world, again, I know there's some bigger companies here, in my little world, that's an expensive proposition. But that training and development manager owns all what we call our IDPs. It's an individual development program. And that individual development program has technical, non-technical growth skills, and then personal. So each one of those folks have, here are my personal goals. I want to run a marathon by the end of the year. I want to get my finances in order so I can pay off my credit card bills. One personal one, and then 2 kind of more technical, this is what growth goals you're going to get, well, here's what certifications you're going to get. And she helps usher those individuals through that individual development plan. Actually, based on a conversation I had with somebody here, I don't know who it was, talking about we're also going to add a bucket list item on there. And part of our experience is to say, okay, you've got a bucket list item. For us, we're a growing company. We don't have a lot of cash all the time, so I can't give out big bonuses. You don't come to work for GadellNet to make a ton of money. But what we can do is say, if you want to go see a concert, or you want to go visit this place, for me, sending somebody for $600 to a vacation is nothing. But a $600 bonus gets shuffled into the mix. The government takes out half in taxes, and they lose it. So how do I create these custom experiences tied back to that bucket list item? GadellNet University is an online training portal. I'm going to fly through these because I'm totally out of time. GadellNet Zero is a continuous improvement program. So we use TINYpulse as a feeder for that. But basically what that is, it goes through a 6 Sigma methodology of saying, hey, this is an opportunity for an improvement. It goes through an executive review board. It gets pushed out to the organization, and somebody raises their hands and said, I want to run the subcommittee that fixes this problem. So it's a good training tool for them, and also, I'm not stuck fixing all the problems. So it's a win for everybody. We have a lunch and learn program. So we both have technical, which is training and development, but then we also do non-technical training. So we have a program called Finances for Your 20s, and we have Finances in Your 30s, and things to think about. What we have noticed most, the average age of a person in my organization is 32, which is a great age to have a ton of financial problems, apparently. So we have a lot of financial issues, even with people making 6 figures. So kind of helping them navigate that, we have found that has increased employee engagement, but also just general satisfaction as employees of the organization. And then, again, how to spend more time with your family, how to balance work and life. Talking about those issues helps give them coping mechanisms. Our philosophy is we will give you the tools, it's up to you to use them. So people in our organization that have not been successful is, I don't get enough training here. I'm giving you $5,000 a year and all these resources, do it. That is our philosophy, is we will give you the tools, it is up to you to actually use them. We will never force that. That's self-accountability is a big part of who we are, it's one of our values. Again, we have an employee development process that goes into the IDP. The blue file is technically the IDP, just calling it a different thing. Internal promotion policy. This has been, again, as we grow, this is giving me a bit of anxiety, but basically every single manager, vice president, director level, including myself, has started off as an individual contributor. So there's not a single person that manages a group of people that did not come in as an individual contributor. That said, we've had a few that lasted 3 or 4 months and they got promoted. But with that in mind, everybody sees we will invest heavily in who you are so that you can elevate yourself into that. So people can see themselves growing with us, and I think that's a big part of our culture. Leadership Academy. I think, I only have one slide on this, but I think I was selected to speak based on the context of Leadership Academy. Leadership Academy, we just completed our third cohort of Leadership Academy. Leadership Academy, again, is a very tactical program that falls into the grander scheme of we value you, we want you to become better leaders. So we do classes of between 8 to 12 people. It's a 6-month course. We bring in speakers. I speak. I participate in every single one of those sessions. They're 4 to 6 hours long. It is an incredible amount of time from me, but it is a chance for me to hear at all levels what things are going on in the organization, what things are important, and really engage with the future leaders of our organization. You get nominated or you self-apply. We review all applications and we create this kind of cohort program. We try to put the people that we think are going to be moving into leadership roles, but we also try pulling in people that we know will never be leaders because they have no interest in it, but that want to be exceptional individual contributors. They want to lead subcommittees. They want to lead other programs. So it's 6 months. I threw some of the topics on there. We pepper in some other ones, but we read 2 books. We usually read kind of a floofy one, like a Simon Sinek book or just a little bit more of kind of that high level. And then we read a much more specific book. We just finished Radical Candor, for example. We thought that was a really good one for the team. Month 1 is we do an emotional intelligence assessment and kind of talk through that. We figured that's very foundational because we talk about that and it kind of builds on each other. So that we feel like of all things, that serves as kind of that foundation. And then we also talk about personal values. We talked this morning, they talked about kind of wearing that same hat throughout every course, that you should never have a different hat when you walk into church as when you walk into the office as when you walk into your house. So it's acknowledgement of these personal values and kind of how that plays into the grander GadellNet values. Financial Accounting 101. So I actually teach that one because we literally go through every line item in the GadellNet books. So they see how much we spend on paper clips all the way to how much we spend on salaries to how much we spend on everything. They see exactly dollar for dollar how much money we make, and they see how much I take home. So we're incredibly open book when it comes to those. We leave it at the financial accounting place. We have 3 rules. Within that, it's this idea of confidentiality is one of them. And so for me, that's a chance for me to share that data and know it's kind of held within kind of, again, the future leaders, and it shows that we trust them as future leaders of the organization. We do a 6 Sigma class. We do coaching and Radical Candor. And then we do Predictive Index, which is the personality assessments. Is how do you understand personalities and how do you build a powerful team? And then we do a capstone project. Again, if you're noticing a theme, I don't do a lot. So capstone project is they self-identify an opportunity within the organization. They break up into groups of 3 to 4, and they have 3 months with which to solve a major GadellNet issue. Idea being is, and in that, they have to use every part of the training that they use. So they talk about the emotional intelligence component of a process change, and really kind of get into that in terms of kind of some of those options within those programs. It's managed and facilitated by me. As we grow, I hope that we can continue to maintain that. That is a big part of what I think is my job as a leader, is hearing some of those things, giving a voice to our employees, but then also creating a learning opportunity for them. Performance management process, I'm going to blow through this one quick. It's a quarterly review process, so we do every quarter. Big thing here is in terms of just tying this back to my theme of how do we operationalize our values, is values are first, KPIs are second. If your values don't meet a minimum criteria, we don't even go into the KPI part of your job. We stop there, and we create an action plan for how do we get you back aligned to our values. So in that performance review process, we could literally never touch on have you done your job correctly. It is, are you aligned with our values first? Page 2, KPIs. And so that's been a big part of what we do. 360 is a huge part of that process as well. We do that annually as kind of part of our system. So again, we use technology for everything. We kind of tie everything back together, but we do use a 360 for that. And then another individual mentioned this. It is a start, stop, continue process. Every other cycle, there's a start, stop, continue for both the employee, but also for the manager. So instead of everything being directed down, that is their chance to lead up. We have a rule in the company is if you have not told me directly, so 100 people times 2, if you have not told me 2 times in the next 12 months that I'm doing something wrong as a company leader, you're probably not right for us. So we're really big on that. And I think that's part of our culture is I am willing to be told I am wrong as the leader of the organization, and that cascades down. So everyone always says, well, our people would never be honest about that. You're going to get stop working so much, boss. Those are meaningless. And so creating a culture where it's saying, hey, here's my weaknesses. In my state of the company, I bring up the 2 or 3 things that I'm working on every quarter. I want people to know that there's things that I just don't do well, and I'm really working at it. So having that come from me, I think articulates that, but then it gets reinforced, and that starts stop continue process. Communications. Again, I know we've got like a 50-50 split of kind of HR versus company leaders, but advocating this idea for communications and having communications come from the leadership, not necessarily always from HR. I think that is an important element, even if HR writes it. There's a lot of times where I have my marketing person or my HR person write a lot of the context, I provide the guardrails, and then I send it out because I think it's more meaningful coming from me because it shows that I'm living whatever option. Time to read. It's a concept, if anyone's a medium reader, they put a time to read 3 minutes. So it's evolved somehow that I put a time to read, this only takes 2 minutes, read this concept. I send it out every Friday morning, and everything has to do with tying back to our values. So I've never mentioned performance, I've never mentioned anything related to clients, I talk about it at a very high level about kind of where are our values integrating into what we do. We do a quarterly state of the company, which seems like an incredible overkill. It's 90 minutes. We are a billable company, so it costs us anywhere between $20,000 and $25,000 of missed billable revenue every quarter to bring everybody on for that 90-minute session. So for me, the onus is on me to make sure that content is spot on. That's when we do all of our new employee introductions. That's where I speak till I'm blue in the face about our 3 values and where our mission is and where we're going and the people that we've made, whose lives were made better because their mouse wasn't working and they called us and we fixed that mouse. And now they can write an Excel project that could change the direction of the company when they were presenting to the CFO. Seeing that impact that they have is a big part of kind of what that state of the company is. And I think it really revitalizes the organization. We also talk about all of the strategic planning items we have for the next 3 quarters. There's never a surprise. There's a theme that we use in the company that's kind of important. It's this idea of kind of clarity creates confidence. It's alliterative, which people love. But alliteration is this idea of creating clarity and understanding where we're going creates a level of confidence that the leadership team knows what it's doing and that they are comfortable in that organization. So again, as you're tackling issues within your organization, start from the basics. Is this clear? I feel like that's change management number 1 is kind of creating some clarity. And that's a big part of what we do. Again, the strategic plan is, if you walk into my office, the strategic plan is we've got a summary, and then we've got little Post-it notes of the strategic plan that you can literally pull off the wall and see the 20 pages of what our strategic plan is for the next 2 years. Most people don't do it, but it sets a tone that says we are open to where we're going. We do a coffee program. If you go to our front desk, our HR manager, or we've got it in the thing, we've got a $5 Starbucks gift card, and the idea is grab it, and then grab somebody you don't know, grab somebody you do know, and go out to coffee. We don't give a restriction on it. Technically speaking, you can be out to coffee for 8 hours a day and be within the confines of our program. But the coffee program has, what the intent was is, I don't work with you a lot, or I don't understand what you do. Let's grab 2 gift cards and let's go to Starbucks and talk for an hour. So the idea is, again, it sets a tone. Again, going back to that kind of operationalizing. We can talk to a blue in the face about collaboration, but what are you doing to enable collaboration? We do a weekly employee spotlight, and then we have a mental health awareness. Again, given the industry that we're in, statistically speaking, people say 1 out of 4 people are struggling with a mental health illness. I would say probably double that within my organization, just part of being in IT. And so we do a lot of work to understand what does it mean to have mental health. Anytime that, again, we have mental health PTO days to destigmatize the idea of saying, hey, I just need a mental break. We work really fast, and so the idea is the fact of what am I doing to help promote the idea that mental health is just as important as physical health. I have a few more slides here. Recognition. So cheers for peers, love it. Obviously, it's a very big part of our organization. We have yet, Tango card people here, I apologize, we have yet to incentivize it. We think about it all the time, let's put some dollars to that, and we've never needed to. And I feel like it makes it disingenuous. I love the idea. We do anywhere between 100 and 200 cheers per week. People love the program. It's connected and integrated back to Slack, so everybody can see. So in our Slack feed, we have all of our client feedback, which is, thanks to Steve for making me so happy today, as well as thanks to Steve for working through the Cheers program. So at any point, you have very big visibility of what the clients are making happy and then the employees that are also happy. We have a parking spot for the top Cheers person. Nothing too creative there, but they get a parking spot if they have the highest Cheers for the month. And then we have a Lego program. So the Lego program is essentially what we do is on people's desk, every time you get a cheer, you get a tiny Lego. And we've been doing this for about 3.5 years now, so people have castles that are built on their desks. And the idea is that it's just that feel-good moment when you're having that shit day and you look and think, I was thanked a castle's worth of times over the last 2.5 years. So it makes it a bit more tangible. It talks, one of the speakers talked about creating these memories. Is no one's going to remember the time that's somebody told you you're doing a great job, but you see it there, and it makes it tangible for the number of people that you've impacted. So again, the Lego program has been great in terms of just kind of tying back cheers to something a bit more physical. The badge program, we have GadellNet kind of old school like varsity jackets, and these are just badges for doing something successful. Each of them has an articulated criteria. I bring it up in our state of the company and kind of use that as a chance to celebrate. So if somebody found a big problem and they solved it themselves, they got a team, they solved themselves, they got a budget, the badge program helps reward some of those things. We do some other stuff on there, but nothing I think worth talking about given I have 4 minutes. So I'm going to conclude with again, everyone these like incredibly cool business quotes, and I'm going to conclude with a Dr. Seuss quote. It's actually one that we have a little black chalkboard in our kitchen, and it's my 2 kids can recite this one because I find it so important. But unless somebody like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And that is the theme for everything that we do. It's a theme for our both community service and all the kind of that warm, fuzzy stuff. But it comes back to, we will give you the tools. Life is waiting for you to live it. And your job as a GadellNet employee and the way that we've structured each of the programs that I talked about today is we offer those programs. It's up to you to actually make the leap and take care of that yourself. So big part of our culture is kind of talking about the Lorex and kind of what that means and kind of tying that back to their responsibility and that self-accountability to really take the steps to improve, to grow, to move up that mountain and kind of make that job not necessarily a job, but an actual journey. So I think there's maybe some time for questions.
Yeah.
I am done. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. That was great. And I love the Lego idea. In fact, I got a little Slack message popped up on my phone, and probably that of other orange shirts, where one of our colleagues was like, I love the Lego idea.
Oh, good.
So I think you're more creative than you think you are. And the parking spot is a really cool idea, too.
Yeah, the big cheers for peers went on. So.
Yeah, okay. So some questions. Have you had any issues with the length of time it takes to hire, i.e. losing candidates to other offers or interview fatigue?
So yes, I would say that we have had people that have walked away from us because of that reason. So I think part of all of our jobs is balancing risk versus reward. Again, like I said, you can find a job in 24 hours if you're in IT. Great field to be in right now. And for me, I think we've probably lost some candidates, but the candidates that have come on board have been worth it. And so again, that does not necessarily mean this is a 3-week process. We can make that relatively quick. We've actually done 2 to 3 steps in a single day. So you can shorten the time, but we will never sacrifice the steps. And so for us, I think it's finding that balance, but then also just understanding the risk versus the reward. If they left, they could have been great, but you know what I'm happy with is all the people that did stick around and actually joined the organization.
That's a good question. With the growth that your company has had, this is an interesting question. Do you think you'll be able to maintain the culture as you grow bigger, or will it become impossible? Or what have the challenges been as you've grown, maintaining some of the pieces of your culture?
Absolutely. So again, I think it's filling in those gaps. So again, the training development manager, that's a new role for us. Is our HR manager couldn't handle it anymore. I was fielding some of those pieces, and now that will be somebody else's job to do that. We believe in technology. TINYpulse is a great one. When we were 10 of us, I could walk around and ask people how they're feeling that day. So how do you leverage technology to build our culture? So our performance management process is all technology-based right now. A lot of the programs that we mentioned are all technology-based. And then it's a function of saying, where are my priorities as a business leader, and what things can I shuttle off? Because again, ultimately, everyone has said that till they're blue in the face, is a quality people organization will deliver the results. So for me, a next step, again, for an example, is we don't have a CFO. I take over the CFO responsibilities. I'd sooner hire a CFO so that I could continue to attend Leadership Academy than say, you know what, I don't need to hire a CFO. I'm going to have my training and development leader lead those. So for me, again, it comes back to triaging where your time is best spent and knowing kind of where the biggest bang for the buck is. But I would say I think we've done a good job of, here is what makes us special. Let's bring in those people to make that special. Trust them to help lead some of these programs. Blue Buddy, for example, that's all employee-led. So put that down and then create efficiencies along the way.
Cool. Is your start-stop process start, stop, keep process anonymous? And also, sort of a secondhand question to that is, how do you deal with a leader that maybe isn't as open to that start, stop, keep feedback?
Good question. That leader would not have a job. Again, we've gotten rid of them. We have done a good job. Again, the cool thing about that is the last few years I can talk about how great our turnover was. If you saw us in 2012, 2013, it took us a while to figure out who we were. We were kind of that weird, awkward adolescent teenager, one leg is longer than the other, and we were trying to navigate our way around some of those challenges. So they would never be a leader. And then the start, stop, continue is not anonymous. TINYpulse is for anonymity, and then the 360 gets rolled up in anonymity. But if you, again, going back to the people that are successful in the organization are people that are willing to acknowledge failure in themselves and opportunities to grow, but then also challenge others to grow. So that is, we try and reward that in such a great way that I think people aren't nervous about it. Our new employees are, and it's really kind of funny to see them be squeamish when I ask them all the things that we're doing wrong and all the things I've done wrong and all the things I think they could do better. But you get ingrained in that culture, and I think for us that's paid dividends. So we do not allow that to be anonymous. That is 100% direct to the manager, and you have to articulate that to the manager. I want people to be uncomfortable with it, because if they're going to be future leaders, that's going to be a part of their jobs.
One last question. What do you think is the biggest differentiator in terms of hiring and recruitment?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think for us it's and maybe I think this is a differentiator, it's how non-negotiable we are for it. I mean, I think for us it's, I would sooner lose a client than speed our hiring process. I would sooner, I don't really know, I'd sooner give up quite a bit of things than delay or not follow something that we've kind of built as part of our culture. And again, going back to that clarity creates confidence, going back to something that I think they talked about earlier, is this idea of kind of creating kind of structure and you know what's coming, is I don't want people to not know what's coming next. And so I think consistency of our programs are incredibly important. And so for me, it's, I think that's our differentiator. I think for us is the fact that we're consistent and we're clear and we're non-negotiable, both in the people that we keep around. We've had really high-profile terminations of people that are fantastic that just didn't fit who we were, and we're okay with that.
Cool. Well, there's a lot of questions in here, but unfortunately we're out of time. But Nick, congrats on your success, and
Well,
thanks
thank you.
so much for coming out and speaking.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for spending time with me.